The great hall of the palace was filled with thousands of aliens from across the galaxy. They had come to witness something that had never happened before. Queen Vila, the most powerful ruler in the known universe, was going to marry a human. Vila stood at the center of the hall. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes glowed like silver moons. She was tall and beautiful in a way that made other beings feel small. Her long white hair flowed down her back like a river of light. She wore a dress made of stars, or at least that is what it looked like. The fabric shimmered and moved as if it was alive. She looked at the doors at the far end of the hall. Soon her future husband would walk through them. She did not love him, she did not even know him. This marriage was not about love. It was about survival. The war between the Empire and Earth had lasted for 5 years. Millions had died on both sides. The humans were weaker than the in almost every way. They did not live as long. They could not survive in space without machines. They did not have natural weapons like claws or fangs, but somehow they kept fighting. They refused to give up. Vila's advisors had told her that the only way to end the war was through peace, and the best way to make peace was through marriage. A union between the queen of the and a human would show both species that they could live together. The doors opened, and everyone turned to look. A man walked into the hall. He was not what anyone expected. His name was Park. He was 32 years old and came from a small city on Earth called. He was not tall. He was not handsome in the way that movie stars were handsome. He had a simple face with kind eyes and short black hair. He wore a plain black suit that looked cheap compared to the expensive clothes of the aliens around him. He walked slowly down the long path toward the queen. His steps were calm and steady. He did not look nervous. He did not look scared. He just walked as if he was going to buy groceries instead of marrying the most powerful being in the galaxy. The aliens in the crowd whispered to each other. "This is the human. He looks so ordinary. I heard humans are weak. They break easily. Why would the queen marry such a creature? This is embarrassing." Vila heard all of this. Her sharp ears could pick up even the smallest sounds. She felt anger rise in her chest, but it was not directed at the people talking. It was directed at herself. She was a queen. She should not have to marry someone so plain. But she had no choice. The peace treaty required this marriage. If she refused, the war would continue. More of her people would die. More humans would die too, though she cared less about that. Reached the center of the hall and stopped in front of her. He was much shorter than she was. The top of his head barely reached her chin. He looked up at her and smiled. It was a small, gentle smile. "Hello," he said. His voice was soft and calm. "It is nice to meet you." Vila did not know what to say. She had expected him to be nervous. She had expected him to beg for her approval or try to impress her. But he just stood there, smiling like they were two normal people meeting for the first time. "You are Park?" she asked. Her voice was cold. "Yes," he said, "and you are Queen Vila. I have heard many stories about you." "Good stories or bad stories?" "Both," he said honestly. "But I do not judge people by stories. I prefer to learn about them myself." The ceremony began. An old priest spoke words in the ancient language, Vila, and exchanged rings. The rings were made of a special metal that connected their life forces together. If one of them died, the other would feel it. When the ceremony ended, the crowd cheered. But Vila could tell that many of them were not happy. They were just pretending. They did not want a human in the royal family. After the ceremony, there was a great feast. Hundreds of different foods were served on golden plates. Music played from instruments that floated in the air. Aliens danced and laughed and drank wine that changed colors. Sat next to Vila at the head table. He did not eat much. He just watched everything with quiet interest. "You are not hungry?" Vila asked. "I am not used to this kind of food," he said. "On Earth I ate simple things, rice, soup, vegetables." "How boring," said a voice from nearby. Vila turned and saw General walking toward them. Was one of her most powerful warriors. He was huge, with dark green skin and 4 arms. Each arm was thick with muscle. His face was ugly, with a flat nose and small eyes that were always angry. Had been against the marriage from the beginning. He believed that should never mix with other species. He especially hated humans. "So this is the famous human husband," said. He looked at the way someone might look at a bug. "I expected more." Looked up at, his face did not change. "I am sorry to disappoint you," he said calmly. Laughed, it was a cruel laugh. "Tell me, human, what can you do? Can you fight? Can you use magic? Can you do anything useful at all?" The hall became quiet. Everyone was watching. Thought for a moment. "I can cook," he said. "I make very good soup." The crowd burst into laughter. Even some of Vila's guards laughed. His face twisted with anger and disgust. "Soup," he spat. "The queen married a cook." "I am also good at gardening," added, "and I can play the guitar." More laughter. Vila felt her face grow hot with embarrassment. This human was making her look like a fool. Leaned close to, his breath smelled like metal and blood. "Listen to me, little human. You do not belong here. You are nothing. You are less than nothing. One day you will learn your place." Did not move. He did not look away. He just smiled that same small, gentle smile. "Perhaps," he said, "but until then I will just try to be a good husband." Stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, shaking his head. The feast continued, but the mood had changed. Everyone was now talking about the strange human who seemed to have no pride. They wondered why he did not fight back. They wondered why he did not try to prove himself. Vila wondered the same thing. That night, after everyone had gone home, Vila and were alone in the royal bedroom. It was a huge room with a bed the size of a small house. The walls were made of crystal, and you could see the stars through them. Stood by the window, looking out at the night sky. "You should have defended yourself," Vila said. "Insulted you in front of everyone. Did not turn around. He wanted me to get angry. If I had gotten angry, I would have lost." "Lost what?" "Control," he said simply. "A man who cannot control his emotions cannot control anything else." Vila did not understand. In her culture, strength was everything. If someone insulted you, you destroyed them. That was how power worked. But seemed to follow different rules, rules she did not know. She watched him standing there, small and quiet against the endless stars. She did not know who this man really was. She did not know what he was hiding. But she would find out. 3 months passed since the wedding. Life in the palace continued as it always had, except now there was a human walking through its halls. Park had become something of a joke among the royal court. The servants whispered about him. The nobles laughed at him behind his back. Even the guards, who were supposed to protect him, treated him with little respect. But did not seem to notice, or if he noticed, he did not care. Every morning he woke up early and walked through the palace gardens. The gardens were beautiful, filled with flowers from 100 different planets. Some flowers glowed in the dark. Others sang when the wind touched them. Would spend hours among them, pulling weeds and watering the soil. The gardeners thought he was strange. Why would a prince do the work of a servant? But said he enjoyed it. He said it helped him think. Every afternoon he would sit in the kitchen and cook. The palace had the best chefs in the empire but preferred to make his own food. He made simple dishes from earth, rice with vegetables, noodles in hot broth. Sometimes he made a dish called kimchi, which was spicy and sour and made the cooks cover their noses. And every evening he would sit on the balcony and play his guitar. The music was soft and sad, full of feelings that the aliens did not understand. Some of the servants would stop and listen. They did not know why, but the music made them feel something deep inside. Queen Vila watched all of this from a distance. She did not spend much time with her husband. She was too busy ruling an empire. but she always knew where he was and what he was doing. She did not understand him. In her world, men tried to prove their power at every moment. They fought, they argued, they showed off their strength and intelligence, but did none of these things. He just existed quietly like a small rock in a rushing river. One day, she decided to talk to him. She found him in the garden, on his knees in the dirt. He was planting something small and green. "What are you doing?" she asked. Looked up and smiled. There was dirt on his face. "I am planting tomatoes. I brought seeds from Earth. I want to see if they will grow here." "Why do you waste your time with this?" Vila asked. "You are a prince now. You could have servants do this for you." "I could," agreed, "but then I would not have anything to do." "You could train with the warriors. You could learn to fight." Laughed softly. "I am not much of a fighter." Vila frowned. "Then what are you? What use are you to this empire?" The question was harsh but did not look hurt. He just kept planting his tomatoes. "I am not sure," he said. "Maybe I am just here to plant tomatoes. Maybe that is enough." Vila did not know what to say. She turned and walked away, more confused than before. The days continued to pass. The peace between and humans held strong. Trade ships moved between the two worlds. Diplomats talked and made agreements. For the first time in years, there was no war. But not everyone was happy about this. General had been quiet since the wedding, but his anger had not gone away. It had only grown stronger. He met with other nobles who shared his beliefs. They talked in secret rooms, late at night, planning something dark. Believed that were the superior species. He believed that mixing with humans was a mistake, and he believed that Queen Vila had become weak. One night called a meeting of his followers. There were about 50 of them, all powerful warriors and nobles. "The queen has lost her mind," said. His voice was like thunder. "She has married a human, a weak, pathetic creature who spends his days playing in dirt. This is not the way." The others nodded and growled in agreement. "We must do something," continued. "We must remind the Empire what true strength looks like, and we must remove the human from the palace, permanently." The followers cheered. They raised their fists and roared. Smiled. His plan was already in motion. A few days later, the palace held a grand tournament. Warriors from across the empire came to compete. They fought with swords and spears. They wrestled and raced. It was a celebration of strength. Attended the tournament with Vila. He sat beside her on the royal balcony, watching the fights below. He seemed interested but not excited. "Do you understand what is happening?" Vila asked him. "They are fighting," said, "to prove who is strongest." "Yes, it is our way. The strong lead, the weak follow." Nodded slowly. "On Earth we have a saying, the loudest voice is not always the—" Vila looked at him. "What does that mean?" "It means that strength is not the only kind of power." Before Vila could respond, a loud voice called from below. "Queen Vila, I have a challenge." It was General. He stood in the center of the arena holding a massive sword. The crowd fell silent. "I challenge the human to a fight," announced. "Let him prove that he deserves to be in this palace." The crowd erupted. Some cheered, others gasped. Everyone turned to look at. His face did not change. He sat calmly, as if had just invited him to tea. "You do not have to accept," Vila whispered to him. "It is your right to refuse." "I know," said. "We'll kill you if you fight him. He is one of the strongest warriors in the empire." "I know," said again. He stood up slowly. The crowd went quiet. Everyone watched as the small human walked to the edge of the balcony. "I decline the challenge," said. His voice was calm and clear. "I have no reason to fight you, General." Laughed. "Of course you decline. You are a coward. You are nothing but a weak little human who hides behind the queen." The crowd laughed along with him. Some threw food at, others made rude gestures. Did not react. He simply turned and sat back down next to Vila. "Are you not angry?" Vila asked. Her voice was tight with frustration. He just humiliated you in front of the entire empire. Yes, said, but I am still alive, and I did not hurt anyone. That is not winning, that is losing. Looked at her with those calm, kind eyes. Maybe, or maybe winning and losing are not as simple as we think. The tournament continued, but no one could stop talking about what had happened. The human prince had shown himself to be a coward. The whole empire knew it now. That night celebrated with his followers. His plan was working perfectly. Soon, everyone would see that the human was worthless, and then would make his move. In the royal bedroom, Vila sat alone, was on the balcony playing his guitar. The sad music filled the night air. She thought about everything that had happened. She thought about her husband, this strange man who refused to fight. She thought about what he had said. That strength was not the only kind of power. She did not believe it. In her world, strength was everything. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice wondered if she was wrong. She looked at through the crystal walls. He sat quietly, his fingers moving over the guitar strings. He looked peaceful, almost happy. Who was this man? What was he hiding? The stars shone above, cold and silent. They offered no answers. But soon, very soon, Vila would learn the truth, and it would change everything she thought she knew about humans. The attack came at midnight. Vila was asleep in the royal bedroom when the first explosion shook the palace. She woke instantly, her warrior instincts taking control. She jumped out of bed and grabbed the sword that hung on her wall. Another explosion, closer this time. The crystal walls cracked and she could hear screaming in the distance. She looked around but his side of the bed was empty. He was not in the room. Good, she thought. He probably ran away. At least he will not get in my way. She ran out of the bedroom and into the hall. The palace was in chaos. Servants were running everywhere. Guards were shouting orders. Smoke filled the air. A young soldier ran up to her. His face was covered in blood. "My queen," he gasped. "We are under attack. General has betrayed us." Vila felt her heart turn cold. She should have known. She should have seen this coming. "How many soldiers does he have?" she demanded. "Thousands, my queen. They are everywhere. They have already taken the east wing. Our forces are falling back." Vila gripped her sword. "Where is the rest of the royal guard?" "Dead, my queen, or captured. Attacked them first. He killed them in their beds." The young soldier fell to his knees, exhausted and wounded. Vila left him there and ran toward the throne room. If she could reach it, she could activate the palace defenses. She could call for help from the loyal armies outside the city. But when she reached the throne room, she found waiting for her. He stood in the center of the room, surrounded by 100 of his best warriors. They wore black armor and carried weapons made of dark metal. Their eyes glowed red in the firelight. Smiled when he saw her. "Hello, my queen. I was wondering when you would arrive." Vila raised her sword. "You are a traitor. You will die for this." Laughed. "I am not a traitor. I am a patriot. I am saving the empire from your weakness. You married a human, Vila. A human. You have brought shame to our entire species." The marriage brought peace. "Peace," spat on the ground. "Peace is for the weak. The empire was built on war, on blood, on conquest. We are warriors, not diplomats." He stepped closer, his 4 arms flexing. "After tonight, things will change. I will be emperor. I will restart the war with Earth. And I will burn every human world until nothing is left but ashes." Vila felt fear, but she did not show it. "You will have to kill me first." "That is the plan," said. He attacked. Was fast for someone so large. His sword came down like a falling star. Vila barely blocked it in time. The impact sent shockwaves through her arms. She fought back. She was one of the best warriors in the empire. She had trained since she was a child. She had killed hundreds of enemies in battle. But was stronger, and he had 4 arms. They fought across the throne room. Their swords clashed again and again. Sparks flew. The ground cracked beneath their feet. Vila managed to Cut's shoulder. He roared in pain and anger, but the wound only made him more dangerous. He hit her with one of his lower arms. The blow caught her in the stomach. She flew backward and crashed into a pillar. Her sword fell from her hand. Walked toward her, blood dripping from his shoulder. "You fight well, Vila, but you cannot win. You are alone." Vila tried to stand, but her body would not obey. The blow had broken something inside her. She could taste blood in her mouth. Raised his sword above her head. "Any last words, my queen?" Vila looked up at him. She would not beg, she would not cry, she would die with dignity. But then something strange happened. The doors to the throne room burst open. Everyone turned to look. A single figure stood in the doorway. He was small and thin, wearing simple clothes. He had no armor, he had no weapon. He just stood there, calm and still. It was, laughed the human. "You came here to die with your wife. How romantic." Did not respond. He just walked into the room, his footsteps echoing in the silence. "Kill him," ordered. 10 of his warriors charged at. They were huge, each one twice his size. They swung their weapons with deadly force. What happened next was impossible to describe. Moved. He moved like water, like wind, like something that was not human. The first warrior swung his sword, stepped aside just slightly, and the sword missed. In the same motion, touched the warrior's arm, just touched it. But the warrior screamed and dropped his weapon. His arm hung limp at his side. The second warrior attacked from behind. Did not even look. He ducked under the attack, spun, and struck the warrior in the throat with 2 fingers. The warrior collapsed, choking. The other 8 warriors attacked at once. It did not matter, moved through them like a ghost. He did not punch, he did not kick, he just touched, a finger here, a palm there. Each touch was precise, each touch was deadly. In less than 10 seconds, all 10 warriors were on the ground. Some were unconscious. Others were screaming in pain. None of them could move. The throne room fell silent. Stared at with wide eyes. What are you?" Looked at him, his face was still calm. His eyes were still kind. But there was something different about him now. Something dangerous. "I am just a human," said softly. "Like all the others you wanted to destroy." He started walking toward. Backed away. For the first time in his life, the great general felt fear. "Stay back, I am warning you." But did not stop. Roared and charged. He swung all 4 of his arms at once. His sword cut through the air fast enough to kill anyone. Anyone except. Moved to the side. The sword missed by an inch, reached up and touched his chest. It was a gentle touch, almost soft. Froze, his eyes went wide. Then he fell to his knees. What did you do to me?" gasped. "I stopped your heart for 3 seconds, said. Long enough to make you feel what death is like. If I do it again, you will not wake up." Tried to stand, but his body would not work. He was shaking. He was terrified. The other warriors in the room looked at each other. They did not know what to do. Their leader was defeated. Their confidence was gone. Turned to face them. "Leave," he said. "Go home to your families. This fight is over." No one moved. "Now," added. His voice was quiet, but it carried power. One by one, the warriors dropped their weapons and ran. They pushed and shoved each other to get through the doors. In moments, only remained. Walked over to Vila. He knelt beside her and gently lifted her head. "Are you okay?" he asked. Vila stared at him. Her mind could not process what she had just seen. This man, this quiet gardener, this cook and guitar player, had just defeated the most dangerous warriors in the Empire without breaking a sweat. "Who are you?" she whispered. Smiled. It was the same small, gentle smile he always wore. "I will tell you everything," he said, "but first let me help you." He touched her stomach where it hit her. His fingers pressed against her skin in a strange pattern. Suddenly, the pain began to fade. She could breathe again. How? She asked. Later said, right now we need to deal with him. He looked back at who was still on his knees, trembling like a child. The night was far from over. The palace was quiet now. The fires had been put out. The wounded were being treated. Followers had either surrendered or escaped into the night. General himself was locked in the deepest dungeon beneath the palace. He sat in his cell, staring at the wall, unable to understand what had happened. He had planned everything perfectly. He had thousands of warriors. He had surprise on his side. And yet, one human had defeated him without even using a weapon. Above the dungeon, in the royal bedroom, Queen Vila sat on her bed. Her wounds had been treated by the palace healers, but she barely noticed. Her mind was somewhere else entirely. Sat across from her on a chair. He had washed the blood from his hands and changed into clean clothes. He looked exactly the same as always, calm, simple, ordinary. But Vila knew now that he was anything but ordinary. Tell me everything, she said. I need to know the truth. Nodded slowly. He had been waiting for this moment. My name is Park, he began. That part is true. I was born on Earth. My father was a fisherman. My mother worked in a small restaurant. We were poor, but we were happy. He paused, looking out the window at the stars. When I was 12 years old, I was chosen for a special program. The government called it Project Shadow. They were looking for children with certain abilities, children who could be trained to become weapons. Vila leaned forward. What kind of abilities? Speed, reflexes, the ability to learn quickly, and something else. Something the scientists could not explain. They called it body awareness. I could feel every part of my body with perfect clarity, every muscle, every nerve, every heartbeat. He looked at his hands. They trained us for 15 years. We learned every fighting style on Earth. We learned how the body works, how to heal it, and how to destroy it. We learned to move in ways that normal humans cannot. By the time we finished, we were no longer ordinary people. We were something else. Weapons, Vila said quietly. Yes, living weapons. We were sent on missions all over Earth. We stopped wars. We killed terrorists. We protected our planet from threats that the public never knew about. His voice became heavier. There was pain in his eyes. I was good at it, too good. I killed many people. Some of them deserved it. Some of them did not. After a while, I could not tell the difference anymore. I was losing myself. He stood up and walked to the window. The stars shone cold and distant. 10 years ago, I left the program. I retired. I moved to a small village in the mountains. I grew vegetables. I played music. I tried to forget what I was. But you did not forget, Vila said. No, you never forget. The skills stay with you. The memories stay with you. They become part of who you are. He turned to face her. When Earth and the Empire went to war, I watched from my village. I saw the news reports. I saw the death counts. I knew that both sides were suffering. Why did you not fight? Because fighting was what I had done my whole life, and it never solved anything. Wars do not end because one side kills more people. Wars end when both sides decide to stop. Vila thought about this. In her culture, war was glorious. Victory was everything, but spoke of war like it was a disease. The peace treaty, she said slowly. You volunteered for this marriage. Yes, I heard that the Empire wanted a human to marry the Queen. Most humans were too scared. They thought you would kill whoever came here. But I was not scared. I had already died 100 times in my training. Death does not frighten me anymore. But why? Why would you give up your peaceful life to come here? Smiled sadly. Because peace is not something you find. It is something you make. I could live in my village forever, growing tomatoes and playing guitar. But the war would continue. People would keep dying. I thought maybe if I came here I could help. Help how? By showing your people that humans are not monsters. By showing them that we can live together. By being patient and kind, even when others are cruel. Vila shook her head. But they mocked you, they insulted you, they treated you like dirt. I know. And you did nothing. I did something. I stayed calm. I showed them that their insults could not hurt me. That is a kind of strength too. Vila was silent for a long moment. Everything she had believed about power and strength was being questioned. She had always thought that the strongest person was the one who could destroy their enemies, but had destroyed warriors without anger, without hatred, without even seeming to try. Tonight, she said, what you did to those warriors, what was that? It is called point striking, explained. The human body has hundreds of pressure points, nerves, blood vessels, joints. If you know exactly where they are, you can disable someone with a single touch. It takes years to learn, decades to master. And stopping's hard. That was more difficult. There is a point near the center of the chest. If you strike it at exactly the right moment between heartbeats, you can make the heart pause. It is extremely dangerous. I have only done it twice before. Vila felt a chill run down her spine. This man sitting in front of her, this quiet gardener, could kill with a touch. He had been holding back this whole time. If he had wanted to, he could have destroyed everyone who insulted him, but he chose not to. Why did you hide this? She asked. Why did you let everyone think you were weak? Sat back down, he looked tired. Because I am tired of being strong. I spent 20 years being a weapon. I do not want to be a weapon anymore. I just want to be a normal person. But you cannot be normal. You are not normal. No, agreed. But I can pretend. I can plant tomatoes and cook soup and play music. I can be kind to people. I can smile. And for a little while I can feel like a human being instead of a monster. Vila looked at her husband. She had thought she understood him. She had thought he was simple and weak. But she had been wrong. There were depths to this man that she had never imagined. I am sorry, she said quietly. Looked surprised. For what? For judging you, for being embarrassed by you, for thinking you were less than me. Shook his head. You do not need to apologize. You saw what I wanted you to see. A simple man with simple habits. I was hiding from everyone, including you. But now I know the truth. Yes, now you know. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise. The sky turned from black to purple to orange. What happens now? Vila asked. Thought for a moment. Rebellion has failed. His followers will need to be found and punished. The empire will need to heal. I was asking about us. Looked at her. What do you want to happen? It was a good question. A few hours ago, Vila had seen her husband as a burden, a political necessity, someone she had to tolerate. But now everything was different. She had seen the man behind the mask. She had seen his strength, his pain, and his kindness. She had seen that he was willing to risk his life to save her. I want to know you, she said. The real you, not the mask, not the performance, the truth. Smiled. For the first time, Vila noticed how warm his smile was. That might take a while, he said. I have been hiding for a long time. I have time, Vila replied. I am queen of an empire. I have nothing but time. Laughed. It was a soft, genuine laugh. Okay, but I should warn you. The real me is not very exciting. I really do like gardening. Vila found herself smiling too. I think I can live with that. The sun rose higher, filling the room with golden light. Outside, the palace was coming back to life. There was work to be done, problems to solve, a future to build. But for this one moment, none of that mattered. For this one moment, there was just a queen and a man, sitting together, beginning to understand each other. It was a small thing, but sometimes small things are where the biggest changes begin. 1 year had passed since the night of rebellion. The empire had changed, not in big, obvious ways. The same stars still burned in the sky. The same ships still flew between worlds. The same nobles still wore expensive clothes and attended fancy parties. But if you looked closely, you could see the differences. General had been put on trial. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Thousands of witnesses had seen his soldiers attack the palace. Hundreds of guards had died because of his orders. The court found him guilty of treason. In the old days would have been executed. That was the way. Traitors died. But Queen Vila had surprised everyone. Instead of death, she sentenced to life in prison. She said that killing him would make him a martyr. It would inspire others to follow his path. Better to let him rot in a cell, forgotten by history. Some people thought she was being weak, but most people understood. The queen was showing a different kind of strength, the strength to show mercy. Followers were dealt with more gently. The leaders were imprisoned. But the common soldiers, the ones who had just followed orders, were given a choice. They could swear loyalty to the queen and return to their lives, or they could leave the empire forever. Most of them chose to stay. The peace between the empire and Earth grew stronger. Trade increased. Cultural exchanges began. Human musicians performed in concert halls. Artists displayed their work in Earth museums. Slowly, the two species began to understand each other. And at the center of all this was Park. The story of what he had done that night had spread across the galaxy. Everyone knew now that the quiet human prince was not what he seemed. They called him the human shadow. They said he could kill with a touch. They said he could stop hearts with his fingers. But the most surprising thing was what did with his new fame. Nothing. He did not start training armies. He did not become a military leader. He did not use his reputation to gain power. He just kept gardening. Every morning he walked through the palace gardens, caring for his plants. The tomatoes he had planted a year ago were now producing fruit, red and round and perfect. He gave them away to the servants who had grown to love him. Every afternoon he cooked in the kitchen. He had taught some of the chefs how to make human food. Now the palace served both cuisines at every meal. And every evening he played his guitar on the balcony. The sad songs had become happier over time. The music still touched people's hearts, but now it made them smile instead of cry. Vila watched all of this with wonder. She had expected to change after his secret was revealed. She had expected him to become harder, colder, more like a warrior. But he remained the same gentle man he had always been. One evening she joined him on the balcony. The stars were bright and the air was cool. "Everyone wants to meet you," she said. "Kings and presidents from across the galaxy. They all want to see the human shadow with their own eyes." Smiled, "What did you tell them?" "I told them you were busy." "Busy doing what?" "Growing tomatoes." Laughed, it was a warm, happy sound. "Thank you." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Vila leaned against her husband's shoulder. It felt natural now. Easy. She had gotten used to his warmth, his kindness, his quiet presence. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course." "Do you ever miss it? The fighting, the missions, the life you had before?" Thought for a long moment. "Sometimes," he admitted. There was a clarity to that life. Everything was simple. There were enemies to defeat and missions to complete. I always knew what I was supposed to do. He looked down at his hands. "But I do not miss the killing. I do not miss the blood. I do not miss watching the light fade from someone's eyes." Vila took his hand in hers. His fingers were rough from gardening. "You saved my life that night. You saved the whole empire." "I did what I had to do." "You did more than that. You showed everyone that strength does not have to be cruel, that power does not have to be violent." Shook his head. "I was violent that night. I hurt many people." "But you did not kill anyone. You could have. You chose not to." "It was not easy. Old habits wanted to take control. I had to fight myself as much as I fought them." Vila squeezed his hand. "That is what makes you special, not your skills, not your training, your heart." Looked at her. In the starlight his eyes were deep and dark. You are becoming soft, my queen. Maybe, she admitted. Is that so bad? No, I think it is wonderful. He leaned over and kissed her forehead. It was a gentle kiss, full of tenderness. In the distance, they could hear music from the palace. There was another party tonight. There was always a party. Nobles drinking expensive wine and gossiping about each other. The same games that people had played for thousands of years. But here on this balcony there was something different, something real. I have been thinking, Vila said. About what? The future, what happens after I am gone. Frowned, you are going to live for hundreds of years. Probably, but even hundreds of years end eventually, and the empire will need leaders after me. Are you talking about children? Vila felt her face grow warm. In the year of their marriage, they had not discussed this. Their relationship had grown slowly, from strangers to friends to something more, but some topics had been avoided. Yes, she said, I am talking about children. Was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was serious. Any child of ours would be half human. The nobles would never accept them as heirs. The nobles can learn to accept new things. They have already learned a lot this year. It would not be easy. Nothing worth doing is ever easy. Smiled, you sound like my mother. Was your mother wise? Very wise. She used to say that life is like the ocean. Sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but always moving forward. Vila liked that. I would have liked to meet her. She would have liked you too. She always said I needed someone strong to keep me in line. Vila laughed. Am I strong enough for you? Looked at her, really looked at her. She felt like he was seeing everything, all her fears, all her hopes, all the parts of herself she kept hidden from everyone else. You are the strongest person I have ever met, he said, and I have met many strong people. They stayed on the balcony until late, talking, laughing, planning. The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and eternal. Finally, as the night grew old, picked up his guitar. He played a new song, not sad, not happy, something in between. A song about beginnings and endings, about loss and hope, about two people from different worlds finding each other in the darkness. Vila listened with her eyes closed. She felt peace in her heart, real peace, the kind she had never known before meeting this strange, quiet human. When the song ended, set down his guitar. I love you, he said. It was the first time he had said those words. Vila opened her eyes. She had expected many things from this marriage, politics, duty, sacrifice. She had never expected love. But here it was, unexpected and beautiful. I love you too, she said. They walked back inside together. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges ahead, new enemies, new problems. The galaxy was full of dangers. But they would face them together, a queen and a human, two halves of a whole. And somewhere in the deepest part of space, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself was smiling. Because sometimes, the most powerful force in existence is not a weapon or an army. It is simply two people who choose to love each other, despite everything that says they should not. That is the true power of humanity. Not in fists or guns or technology, but in the heart.